Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man, Matthews. What's going on, brother?
Just looking at my shambles of a haircut.
For those of you listening to this, Tim is looking into the video because we're on video, of course. We record these. You can see
7th
on
of
YouTube.
July is the D-Day, Doug. 7th of July. I
Is
get a haircut after 5 or 6 months.
Good for you, buddy. Good for you. I think we're all excited about that. You look
Yeah,
good, man. You pull off the long hair.
yeah, I think I do as well. But there's need a little bit of a tidy up. I've got you to compete with, so you
Tough
always
audience.
jump on looking fresh. And on the team meeting the other day, you had your hair all nicely done, and I was like, "Whoa, he looks like that guy off his Pinterest board."
I'm glad you noticed my hair. So, Tim, the topic for today is alone at home, what your wife is actually feeling.
Hmm.
So, Tim, I came up with this one that I'm going to throw on the table for us as a discussion after talking to a couple guys yesterday. But before we get into that, I just want to give a shout out to the current guys in the activation method. They are absolutely crushing it at home with their wives. They're only a couple weeks into the program, and the results are amazing. And it's been awesome. So I know they listen to the podcast. I won't mention any names, but they are absolutely crushing it. And I want to give you guys all a shout out and congratulations. You're doing the work and you're reaping the benefits, guys. And you'll recognize this conversation here because this is alone at home, what your wife is feeling. And we talk about men and women a lot here, right? And the differences, and one of the things we talk about, Tim, is if you're watching Animal Planet or Discovery in the United States, and basically National Geographic or BBC, something to do with animals, they always talk about how the male and the female are two different species within the species, right? So, you have the lion and lioness and how different they are, and the roles within the pride are also different, or, the wolf pack, so to speak. But for humans, for some reason, we always want to think that men and women are the same. And the truth is our biology is different, our brain chemistry is different, so therefore also the ways that we interpret things are also different. So when we talk alone at home, what your wife is really feeling, what we're looking at here is more traditional roles. Now, I know you're the provider for your family and I am for mine. My wife doesn't work, she takes care of the kids. And one thing that they've done study after study is that when a woman is looking to exit a relationship, she's looking to leave, it's been a long deliberation. Very rarely does it happen just like that. Now, it may appear like that to the guy, but it's very rare. One of the biggest complaints is women feeling alone at home. And what this means to her is she is doing all of the chores. She's prepping the food for the kids, probably for her husband. She does the shopping for groceries and other things. She's taking care of the dishes, the garbage. She's cleaning the house. And this comes with that diffused awareness where for a woman, they walk into a room, they see everything. The mess speaks to them, right? The dishes in the sink are talking to her. The dirty floor is talking to her. The toys on the ground, the kitchen, it's all talking to her, and it's chaotic in her mind. And so women often report feeling alone at home, abandoned, really, when the man hasn't stepped up and helped out with the average household chores.
Yeah, it's interesting. I put a post out there on social media, I think this week, asking the question, 80% of divorces are initiated by women. Why do you think that is? And, there's some very interesting responses that essentially, feed interesting responses from women as well, by the way, a lot of women that back up this point. And, for a lot of those divorces, the woman often cites that the guy left the marriage long before she did, right?
Yep.
And for the guy, he often thinks that he doesn't feel like he's left because physically he's there and he's going out to provide. And obviously, in his mind, he's doing it for us, the family, right? So I imagine in that space, he feels connected still, right? And then obviously, when he comes home and he brings work home with him, and he's irritable and distant, and and this happens night after night, year after year, there's it makes sense to me. I can see why women then report feeling very, well, saying he checked out long before they did.
Yeah. And so we can get into that because there's so many things to unpack there alone. But this one specifically about doing things at the house, right? Her
Mm.
feeling that she is the sole person responsible for, cooking the food, doing the dishes, doing the home type chores, so to speak, domestication
Mhm.
aspects. It's one of the number one complaints for women, whether they stay at home by themselves, right? It's a little different then, right? There's some
Mm.
expectations, for most couples. But, if she's working and then she comes home to have to do that as well. And, one of the solutions here is, when a man argues or has a problem with either A, helping out, or B, funding the money to help out, right? To actually hire someone to come in and clean the home, or someone to come in and help out with the kids, or somebody to do those domestic chores. And even when that happens, Tim, the women are often reporting that they just want their partner to help out and recognize what they do. And
Yeah.
what's often said is that when a man when us guys do something like we do the dishes, we want to be recognized for it. I'm like, hey, did you see I did the dishes and I took out the trash, right? I often used to find myself telling my wife every time I took out the trash, I just want to let you know I took out the trash, and get acknowledged for it. And, retrospectively, she didn't feel acknowledged for the things that she was doing around the house. She felt like those were expectations put upon her. Whereas when I did it, in her eyes, I was looking for, you know, a pat on the back or what have you for doing things that she felt I should be doing anyway.
Yeah, I may be missing the point here in this, Doug, so you may just have to keep reining me in. But this reminds me of a study that got sent to me a few months ago by a good friend of mine. It was a study on happiness. And this professor, I think it was a Harvard professor, he had studied for several years, a long time anyway, the trend of happiness, right? He tells his story how, as a child, his mother told him that you need three things to be happy, right? Have you heard the study? Have you?
It's not sounding familiar right now.
Okay, so three things to be happy. One of them is a job, a good career. So he then dives into that and say, yeah, well, she was right. Up until about 75,000 take home a year, happiness increases, but after that, it doesn't really increase a great deal. The second thing that she said to him was marriage. And he said, well, yeah, married couples are typically happier than single couples because they have companionship and someone to share in experiences with. Although there's trying times as well, overall, marriage does equate to more happiness. And the third thing she said was children. And what he said was couples with children is not shown to be happier than couples without children. But the kicker here is children actually made the women more unhappy and the men happier. And the reason for this was because of women often reporting that they feel like they had these desires and these dreams, right, to go out there and pursue a career and do things in the world. And then, those dreams got forgotten. They never got pursued because they ended up being at home the entire time raising the kids. And that wasn't necessarily the vision that most of these, I don't know what the demographic was that they studied, but most of these, well, it wasn't how most of these women saw themselves. Not in its, it was part of how they saw themselves, but not its entirety, right? And that makes me wonder, as women then go about doing the housework. I wonder whether it is that's playing into it, right? Whether it's a case of either being recognized, but also, hey, I'm left here to do all this. Why it's okay for you go, and I've had guys tell me this week. Actually, most guys I've spoken to this week have said my wife thinks that I've got it good because I'm out there traveling, doing what I love, building the business, but she doesn't get it that I'm doing it for us, and because she doesn't necessarily see it that way, right? She's there at home with the kids. She's had to shelve her dreams for the most part, whilst he can continue with his dreams. He can continue with his body. He hasn't had to give up, quote unquote, his body for a period of time, and all those other things that intertwine into the story, right? So it's interesting. I wonder, like I say, whether how much that actually plays into this feeling of being alone at home.
Yeah. So I think it does play into it. But you got to remember that probably for most of our listeners, their wife works, right? And what this study was showing, the one I'm talking about, was actually the duties around the house, the dividing of duties. Now, we've talked about this in other podcasts for your relationship, whether it be doing the dishes or picking up your
Mm-hmm.
clothes, as well as mine and the other guys. But this is specifically related to doing the duties and feeling appreciated, but also feeling like a team, right? And
Yeah.
feeling like you're a member of a team and you're working together on something rather than expectations. Now, I delved into it. I wasn't going to talk about it in this podcast, but there's more to the science behind this in the sense that, how men, relate to stress, right? A lot of guys turn to drinking. As soon as they get home, they turn off. Men feel like if they're in the room with their woman, they're spending quality time. Women feel like they're actually being put off unless the guy is actually focused on her, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of nuances that are playing out here. But for the point of this conversation, the question I want to ask the guys listening to this is, are you stepping up at home? Are you stepping up and doing your part? Because I think it's really funny to me. I remember this distinctly, Tim, is, early in my relationship with my wife, I would get so upset, that she didn't do the dishes, right? Or she, there's a pile of dishes in the sink and that was her job to do, or she didn't take out the trash and I was always taking it out. Now, of course, there were other issues in our relationship and, we were figuring those out. So this was just kind of one of those things that stuck out to me. And, I was just doing the dishes. I was so pissed off and washing them, just angry, that kind of angry energy you got where you're just like doing them a million miles an hour. And I was so mad. I'm thinking, why do I have to do this? And then it came across my mind is, hey, if I leave her and I go become a single guy, guess what? I got to do the dishes. I got to take out the trash. There's no difference. The only difference is now I have a partner who is helping out with the workload. And what happens, and I fall into it too, especially because my wife doesn't have to work, so she stays at home. But then again, I work from home. Is I fall into that idea of that, hey, I'm providing the money, I'm providing all these other things, security, a house, whatever it may be. So the least you could do is take care of these domestic chores. And if it's not talked about in a relationship and it's not settled upon, this is when the resentment builds up on both parties. But more often, the woman is building up in her, and part of it's because, she left her career, as you said, and other things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really the not feeling like a team. So she doesn't feel seen, right? So if she's not feeling seen, therefore she's not feeling desired, that's when women start to slowly check out of the relationship.
Yeah, I wonder whether this would still be as much of an issue for some of the hypothetical women, if you will, if the guys were using the hidden motives technique. Because by default, the way that they use that is, like you said, the woman then feels seen and heard, right? She feels connected with her guy. He's focusing all his attention on her and he's meeting her needs without her telling him what they are, right? And then little things like this become way less of an issue because he then also gets more appreciation back. And you mentioned at the start of the call, the guys in the activation method, a big piece of they're very early on in the program. They've only been through the Live as a King system and the hidden motives technique very early on,
Yeah.
And they're already seeing major shifts. Guys going from, the wives being like, right, I want divorced, and then saying, I love you, and having sex several times a week. And this is, not one guy, this is like 5 or 6 guys.
Yep.
So point being is, and ironically enough as well, Doug, all of these wives do not work. They all are stay-at-home mums.
Yep.
And they look after the kids, and the guys do work, right? So, again, nothing's really changed with how they divide, if you will, the duties of the house. It's just that because the guy has been able to come home and recognize how to meet his wife's needs without telling her what they are, she then, like I said, feels seen and heard and so connected, right? And there's less resentment from her side because he's not so focused on his business the entire time.
Hmm.
right? There's more balance to his life as well. So all these other little things become, well, all these other things become smaller, like the dishes. It becomes less of a problem.
That's a really good point, Tim. I didn't think about that. And you got to understand though, like the thing that I was reading and then talking to the guys about stuff, when they do these studies, they're not dealing with the guys that have been through the program. They're not dealing with men that have relationships that have the hidden motives technique or that live like the king system, or anything else that we teach. So these are just average guys, right? These are average relationships and marriages. And what tends to happen, like when guys leave a relationship, they tend to already have another woman spotted out, right? It's an abrupt amount, right? It's not this long, drawn out
Mm.
process. Where a woman, it's more drawn out. Usually, when a woman leaves a relationship, right, she doesn't want a man unless she's already left that relationship emotionally, right? In other words, she only
Mm.
does that when she's met a man that guy's fulfilled their needs over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different. What we're talking about here is, the men that haven't been through the activation method and don't have the hidden motives technique, which is a great point. Maybe we should write the study and let them know the results that
Mm-hmm.
we're getting. But it's you ask the guys at home, like, what are you doing? If you don't have the hidden motives technique and things aren't going well, or maybe you think they are, right? That's what happens to almost all the guys that we talk to. They think things are going well enough. But are you divvying up yours? Is your wife feeling home? Is she at home feeling alone
Mm.
because you're not stepping up? You're not stepping into the things that you get to do.
I'm just looking here, Doug. Episode 193. How to meet your wife's needs without her telling you what they are. I think we dive into the hidden motives technique a little bit there. So if you're listening to this and you want to go and find out a bit more, episode 193, how to meet your wife's needs without her telling you what they are.
What episode was Pick Up Your Clothes?
Let me have a quick look. That was called "Are You Treating Your Lover Like Your Mother?"
You got a
And
memory like an elephant, man. You don't.
I love that one. Are you treating your mother like your lover like your mother? Um, I'll keep going. I'll find that one.
So yeah, guys, what I want you to do in this conversation, one is be aware, right? That's the first thing. When I read the study, it was kind of one of those, oh, of course, I can see where that's coming from. The counter argument you'll hear is the guy say, well, you said, Tim, is, well, I'm going out and providing, right? I'm going out and working. And so
Mm-hmm.
do you know in therapy the woman says to the man when he says that? If I wasn't here, you'd be
Yeah.
working anyway.
Oh. Yeah, it doesn't care. It doesn't matter, does it?
Nope, not at all, which is true, right? And that ends the conversation because then the guy gets pissed and etc. But so guys, what are you doing around your house? Have you had those clearing conversations? Have you used the hidden motives technique? Go back and listen to that podcast and you get an overview of it.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on for you? Look at how things are done in your house. Maybe look a little closer, right? Is your wife purposefully letting the dishes pile up? Is she purposefully leaving things out so you'll see them and she's hoping you'll take a hint, right? The trash bins start overflowing. Take note of these things. These are, not so subtle hints that women will leave for you. A lot of you guys are past this stage. And she said, screw it. He's not smart enough to figure this out, right? She's talking to her girlfriends about it, but she's no longer talking to you about it directly or indirectly. So take note of what's going on and how your wife's really feeling about it. And of course, right now, if you really want to light things up and things aren't as great as they could be at home, if you're looking to rate your relationship with your wife on a scale of 1 to 10, if you're not at least an 8 or above, go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus and grab the Reignite cheat sheet. Do it right now. It is a fantastic methodology to reignite the spark in your relationship and get things back on track.
And that other episode is episode 38. Are you making your lover your mother?
Awesome. So guys, go back and listen to those 2 episodes that Tim mentioned. Get just a little bit more information and insight into this not only situation, but more importantly, the solutions and the conversation. And it's just like anything, guys. A tool is great, right? But it's actually the knowledge on how to use that tool that'll last you a lifetime. It'll last you a lifetime through your relationship. But you can read about it, you can listen about it. It's all about experiential learning and actually doing it. So, as we always say in the moment of insight, take massive action. All right, guys, that's another episode for us in the bag. So we'll see you next time on the Powerful Man Show.